Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, CF Montreal suffers a heavy loss at Stade Saputo, and we'll discuss what's next for the club. That and a lot more on episode 192 of The Ball is Round. And I'm joined as usual my two good friends, Eve Powell and Andy Coronado. Eve, a 5-0 loss for CF Montreal, a 6-2 loss for the Wolves. Are you okay?
Mm, no, I'm ready to just go to bed and have today be over with. Actually, I have never been so excited for, I think, Monday to roll around in my life.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's going to be depressing. I know that Sean Richardson told us that he can't wait to hear you on this pod tonight. So we'll dive into it in a few seconds. But first, Andy, are you going to be able to give us some optimistic views today? Because you're Mr. Optimistic with Elias not being here.
I mean, look, I'll give you guys my take. It's so hard to be optimistic after a 5-0 win at loss. Oh, lost.
Oh,
But
It's just straight up denial. We've
whoa.
surpassed optimism.
I'm sorry. No, a 5-0 loss. It's very hard to be optimistic. But anyways, I'll tell you how I can see it optimistically, I guess, in a way.
of course, guys. So tonight we're gonna
Don't give me that look,
You don't
Eve.
have to be optimistic.
Don't
I'm
give me that look,
let's
Eve.
not force you. I'm team pessimism over here. So if you want to
We
come
all
to the
know
dark
that.
side, there's lots of room over here. Just saying.
There's pessimism, there's optimism, and there's realism. So there it
Those
is.
are everything.
So, guys, as you guys know, tonight we're gonna dive into that game that left us all stunned yesterday. So, if you're still processing that home defeat, guess what? You're not alone. It was a match that can only be described as a complete disaster. What we expected to be the new beginning of the season turned into a very humbling experience. Now, we know it's tough to relive a game like this, but you know what? We're here to break it down because that's what we do here on The Ball is Round. We're going to look at the key moments. We're going to hear from you fans as we usually do, and we're going to try to find a way forward. So try to find a bit of an optimistic view sometimes. So if you're still feeling the sting, just stay with us. We're going to sift through the wreckage and figure out what comes next for this team. It's a very rough patch right now that we're on. But you know what, guys? Mathematically, the season is not lost yet.
Mhm.
So let's wait and see. And move on to the game. So we have so many comments, and I was pretty sure we're gonna have a lot of comments, and we'll talk about them a bit later as we go on with the show for sure. So first of all, let's talk about that game. CF Montreal, of course, at home at Stade Saputo against the New England Revolution. Laurent Courtois chose a starting 11 that, again, was very surprising with Jonathan Sirois in goal, George Campbell as the right center back, Joel Waterman in the middle, and Joaquin Sosa as the left center back. As wing backs, we had Jaquil Marshall-Rudy on the right and Tom Pierce on the left. In the middle of the pitch, Nathan Saliba and Samuel Piet. And up front, we had the two number 10s, our offensive midfielders, with Bryce Duke and Caden Clark. And as a lone striker, and I was the most surprised by this, Joseph Martinez as the lone striker. Andy, what did you think about that starting 11?
Well, look, before the game, this to me was so important. This game, in the sense of it's been 2 weeks of a lot of what's gonna happen, what direction are we going in? We have 9 games left. We still are in the playoffs. Like, is Laurent Courtois gonna line up the strongest lineup he has on hand to be able to win every game from here on out, because that's what the players have said, and that's what he said, that's what the president said, Gabriel Gervais, that they want to win the games, they want to make it to a playoff. So the big telling factor to me is the lineup. It's just the lineup before the ball even gets touched. Is who are you putting on the field to give you that best opportunity to win? And when I saw the lineup, I said, is this the lineup for the future, or is this the lineup to win today? And that's where the optimism for me comes. Is it felt like a lineup more like focusing on the future than of winning today, which the end result obviously shows that it wasn't to win today. So that's what I thought when I saw that lineup. I was shocked, surprised. My first question was, where's Matias Kokaro? That was my bet, as Max Struman did say it, and the coach also said that apparently there was something internally that was taken care of. But yeah, that was my take on that lineup.
Eve.
I think probably not surprised to see the new signings make their debuts, because kind of a relative breath of fresh air in this team that has been struggling for so many weeks now. Obviously, interesting to see kind of a tandem of number 10s up top, because, of course, we'd seen Bryce Duke enjoy more success in a deeper lying role. But I guess with Mathieu Choinière making his way onto his next destination, it looks like Nathan Saliba will be taking over that spot instead. I was a little curious if maybe there might be more entertainment of Bryce Duke in that supporting, in that deeper, closer to a number 8 role. Otherwise, not terribly surprised by the selections, really. I don't think so, given the circumstances with who's available. I guess good to see that Joseph Martinez and Laurent Courtois were able to make up over whatever differences they had, and that he found his way into the starting 11, therefore.
Yeah, interesting. Honestly, I was shocked. For me, the way Laurent Courtois talked about Joseph Martinez was, for me, a point of no return. But you know what? It feels like, Laurent Courtois just before the game said that he shouldn't have said that, so kind of apologized to that, which was very weird because, like, you threw him on the bus, you stepped on him, you spit on him, and then you say sorry, which is a bit weird. And then I'm not sure I see the point in having 2 wing backs if you don't have anybody that can place a header in the box. So I just don't see the point. So either you're gonna cross, you're gonna do low crosses, and you're gonna run up to the end of the pitch and draw back your crosses in behind, or it's not worth it to have wing back. So I still don't understand what he was trying to do. So that was my first reaction, and then the second reaction, again, a change in central defense. And for me, it's just I can't understand it. Like, we're more than halfway through the season. We're like about to the final third, the final 8 games of the season, and you still haven't found your starting center backs. I don't know. I don't understand it. But you know what? I wasn't expecting such a loss. That's for sure. And Tate has a very good concept. He says, I think that the U.S. anthem was an omen to Montreal's evening on the pitch. If you guys weren't in the stadium, the anthem that the U.S. anthem, the person that sang it made a huge mistake and forgot the lyrics at one point and said la 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 while singing, which was really, really, really funny and very sad at the same time. So yeah, maybe that's it, Tate. You might be right, and of course I'll talk about the rest of the comments a bit later when we move on to our second segment. But right now, let's dive into the game itself. As usual, position by position, we're going to start up top for now. We're going to start with Joseph Martinez because I think that's going to be more interesting than the rest. Andy, let's talk about Joseph Martinez. What did you think about his performance?
Well, similar to you, Hady, I was surprised to see him starting. I would have thought if he's not starting, then Sunusi is definitely getting the start. I do want to kind of go back to your comment. What you said earlier is about how yes, last week you said absolutely 0% we see him, it's done. I do want to say I think maybe again, like I said last week, we're kind of finding out who Laurent Courtois is as a coach, in the sense that maybe he's very emotional, and when he's emotional, he'll say things that as a coach you just can't say to the media. You
Mhm.
can't. You have to hold back. How many of us, I know me, when I get mad or emotional, whatever, I will say things that I don't mean. And it could be, but as a professional, someone that deals with the media relations, you just can't let these emotions drive your answer. It might be that, it might not be. We don't know the full story, but in any case, it blew up when he said it. But as far as how he played, Joseph Martinez, I did like some of the runs that he did throughout the game. I mean, he played the whole game. He wasn't even subbed out, and I did like some of the runs, but I remember there was, I think maybe I don't remember the exact minute, somewhere in the game, early in the game, where he attempted a shot that was blocked, and he had Caden Clark wide open one-on-one, a goalie in his left, and
Mhm.
he just shot it. I don't know if you guys remember that. And he, instead of chipping it to him and giving him that one-on-one with the goalie, he shot it. And that, to me, shows the kind of character Joseph Martinez is as a striker, which is expected. Strikers have always been selfish. They
Yeah.
always want to score goals. That's all they think about. But in this scheme of Laurent Courtois, it doesn't work that way. So, based on what we've seen, right? Um, so in that sense, that's something that was very up and down. I did see him get frustrated later in the game as the score was going up, but I wouldn't say he was a special. I it's been the same things that we've been seeing so far throughout the season, in my opinion, with Joseph Martinez.
Yeah, and Eve, just Martinez played the whole 90 minutes. Like,
Yep.
he stayed on the pitch the whole game. Like, you were completely thrown under the bus like a few days ago, and now not only you're a starter, but you played the whole game. Like, what's up with that?
I mean, I think maybe it's a lack of confidence that Laurent Courtois has in the other options available on the bench, whether it's
Maybe.
Opoku or Sanusi. Obviously, Sanusi remains the leading goal scorer to date with his 6 goals for the club so far this season. But, that obviously, and Kokoro was once again unavailable for reasons. So that was kind of my running theory. It was just sort of, yeah, it's weird in the context that he had just spoken, so vitriolically about Joseph Martinez, just a few short days before playing him for a full 90 minutes and kind of doing a weird about face. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think if you look at just talent and accomplishment, and scoring pedigree, then he is still the best option available right now for this team.
Okay, I'm gonna go into a conspiracy theory now, if you
Okay.
guys don't mind. But there was the availability of Gabriel Gervais on Tuesday, and
Mhm.
he was asked about Joseph Martinez and
Mhm.
how this was handled by Laurent Courtois, if he was behind it, and he said yes, 100%. But honestly, I didn't really believe him in a way, and I'm wondering if Laurent Courtois didn't have a talk with Gabriel Gervais, and where the boss said, "Hey, it's our best player. Some way you have to play him, or something like that." That's not something we said. We're just 1 point away from playoffs. You need your best players on the pitch. Next year we'll trade him, but right now you need him, or something like that.
It could
And
be,
and you
yeah.
know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this happened,
Yeah, and
because
that doesn't sound like an off theory to me.
yeah,
But
exactly. So
when the question was asked, wasn't it asked not about Joseph Martinez in general, but every punishment that he's done so far to any player? It was a general question, not exactly to Joseph Martinez. No.
yes, it was a general question, but like
Okay. Okay,
like
because I
everything pointed to Joseph Martinez. Like
to
that's
me, his answer, the answer that Laurent Courtois gave about Joseph Martinez, that again, when everybody went crazy over, was a very emotional answer. So
yeah.
that to me is that maybe yes, with that conversation with Gabriel Javel was very much like, okay, let's take a step back and look at the facts, right? Look at what happened, what is valid and what is invalid, and maybe at that point he was like, okay, this is where you could improve, this is where he can improve, and they kind of came to agreement, maybe, I don't know, till the end of the season. And yes, your conspiracy theory of him being forced because they want to get some value out of it could be completely legit.
I don't know. And when you think about it from a strategic point of view, Joseph Martinez was presented as the serial killer, the player that's gonna come and score goals and gonna lift the club to the next level and everything. And I feel that it doesn't make sense to just completely ignore him afterwards. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a theory like another, but I don't understand how you would change your mind that quickly on a player. Like you would give him at least 2, 3, or 4 games out of the team before starting to maybe think of a future with him. I don't know. That's my opinion. Moving on, two offensive midfielders. First time that we see them together, even if they played together before. Wellington's best friend, Bryce Duke, and and of course the first start of Caden Clark. Wasn't very successful as a partnership, but what you guys thought of them? Let's start with you, Eve.
I mean, I think a lot of credit when we judge the performance of particularly the attacking players has to be given to New England's defense because they were absolutely on point last night. Like, I found the Montreal players, particularly probably Bryce Duke and Caden Clark would be the two who would come to mind most, were really reduced with very limited options a lot of the times. And were well shepherded and kind of lacked solutions. And a lot of that can also fall rather um, on the Montreal's tactics and the lack of ability to work things around. Once it was clear that New England had their number, but I don't think it's a partnership necessarily that works. And I'm not sure even that 2 number 10s with just Joseph Martinez as the lone striker is the right solution whatsoever for this team. They're struggling to score goals, and they're even struggling just to have one successful number 10. I don't think adding another one who has, kind of had some hit and miss times in his career lately as well, is necessarily what's going to fix this. As for Caden Clark, I like to see him take some risks from the top of the box with some shots when, it didn't seem like there was another option available. He did try to get himself into some interesting positions, whether or not that was acknowledged by a teammate, different story. For Bryce Duke, I feel bad because having seen him in a position that suited him better, now it's kind of like seeing him in the number 10 role where things do get slowed down a lot, where things do get overcomplicated. It's kind of a bit harder to digest because we've seen so much better from him in other positions that he's tried out in this season. But again, and I'm sure probably it just wasn't very easy to do in the circumstances of that game, as goal upon goal just kept going in. But I'll say, I wasn't as shocked and abhorred as I was with other players.
Yeah. Andy?
I mean, I gotta go with what Eve was saying, but I'm gonna what do you say this? I'm gonna feed Wellington his everything he deserves today.
I agree with you.
Because Caden Clark, to me personally, wasn't a perfect game, but he played very well. He did the runs. He was active on front. He was running side to side. He was coming back for the ball. He was so active. He's what I've wanted to see from Bryce Duke, or we've seen, better said, 1 game out of 10 every other week from him, where he's everywhere. Bryce Duke, we saw, maybe I put too high of a expectation for that combination between the two, but the Bryce Duke I saw yesterday was horrendous. And just when I was looking at video, I was like, he is doing terribly. But then I actually pulled up his stats just to see if the stats match what I'm seeing. And just yesterday, he had 18 possessions lost throughout the game. 18. And to me, that is senseless why they wouldn't replace him. They let him play the whole game like that. He had maybe 1 or 2 plays that were good, but the rest, he was just messy. he did not play well at all. He did not
He
match
wasn't
well.
Messi, but he was Messi.
Anti-Messi, if anything. No, he really was a messy player, like a horrible player. It was not good. And again, Hady, you've asked this before, like who is serving the ball to these strikers when they need to score? And it's supposed to be Clark, Caden Clark now, and well, Bryce Duke this whole season and last. And yesterday was just after all that rest, after all that, yes, like you've said, you got to give credit where credit is due. New England capitalized on it. They weren't scared to get on him and everything, and that's something that completely derailed the game plan, because you can't get anywhere if Bryce Duke can't do anything with the ball. So it was just, I was appalled. Today's your day, Wellington. 100%, you're right about him, but I'm not. I'm gonna take game by game by Bryce Duke, but he made. To me, if you're asking me, we want to win the next 8 games. Why am I putting Bryce Duke after a performance like last night? I can't. I don't see it reasonable to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that he had a terrible game, a horrible game. It was disgusting to see. And Wellington says Bryce Duke has given his best. There is nothing more he can do. Hady, you have been defending Bryce Duke's performance throughout the season, which is not true. The team cannot win a player with a player like Duke. Please stop justifying Duke's bad performance. Duke is a flop. As of right now, he is. He is a flop, 100%.
Today he is.
And today he has been. Yesterday he has been like disgusting performance. As for Caden Clark, I agree with you, Andy. I don't think that he had an excellent game or he played very well, but I think for a first game, I think he did okay. I liked what I saw. I liked his run. I liked the fact also that he took his shot whenever he could. I think it was very interesting. I think he would have been better if he had maybe, instead of having just Joseph Martinez, I would have liked to see maybe Kokaro and Martinez together, or Sunusi and Kokaro together, or Sunusi and Martinez together. I don't know, but with Caden Clark just behind, with Bryce Duke not being on the pitch, or if you want to, playing him deeper on the pitch. That's something that we liked when we saw him play deeper on the pitch. But I agree.
Towards the end of the game, they moved them down, right, Hady? They
Yeah,
moved them down,
exactly.
and they moved them down. He did a
Exactly.
bit better, but
yeah, but it wasn't. He had. Yeah, the team was completely lost at that point, so we can't really judge on the aftermath of the fifth goal. So, so that's for the top two. Let's move on to the midfield. The midfield of Samuel Piette and Nathan Saliba. Andy, you look at those two, and as you said earlier, it looks like the future for CF Montreal, the present also, but the future too, with Mathieu Choinière close to being sold, or as per the rumors, of course. What did you think about those two? Because honestly, I look at those two, and I don't think they had a bad game.
I'll be very honest. Okay, first of all, are we starting to get scared because Mathieu Choinière's thing is not getting finalized yet? Is anybody getting worried about that?
Of what exactly?
A bit
Sorry.
like
that he's not sold?
That it won't be finalized, because there's always these kind of things that happen.
Even if. Why is that a problem?
Yeah, I don't understand why you're scared.
Sorry, the word wrong word. Not scared, but it's like confused. Why isn't it finishing? Why isn't it?
Anyway, I don't know. I mean,
we're not there.
No. I mean, the fact that they were willing to like publicly comment on it, I think indicates that it's very, very close to being done. Because I mean, if it's more speculative, then they wouldn't have commented whatsoever on it. So
right.
No, really, just
And
I'm deviating.
In Switzerland, and in Switzerland, you still have 2 weeks left for the transfer window. So it's closed on the 7th of September. So we still have time.
Okay. So to go to a question, sorry, I thought I went to a Choinière thing. To go to Nathan Saliba and Samuel Piette. I liked Nathan Saliba's game yesterday. I did. I don't think, again, similar to Clark, I don't think he had the perfect game, but I did like his game. I think he did very well switching the ball from side to side. He did well in his role. Samuel Piette's game, I've always said it, and I think we've said it in this podcast a few times, that we do like the way he plays. I like the way he plays because he does his job. But specifically yesterday, there are two midfielders were outmatched and outclassed by New England's midfield, and it was very obvious. Number 10, Carles Hill. A lot of times I would see Samuel Piet and him together, and he was running circles around him, circles. And two of the goals, I think it was the third or the second, I forgot. Two of the goals where the midfield literally went right through Nathan Saliba to score the goals. So they were just, again, not a perfect game if I'm looking at it from the CF Montreal point of view, but they were outmatched. And I'm happy that they took Samuel Piet, but I think they took him out too late because it was very clear. I think they took him out at 2-0, right? But he was still getting very outmatched for a lot of those games. A lot of that game. And actually, the second goal is easy to blame on him because he's the one that had the ball in front of the penalty box. But I don't think it was his fault at all because that started on the right and he was just placed in bad position. But yeah, in that sense, I don't think I liked Saliba's game. Piet, I just felt he was outclassed, and he was, and maybe he's just not used to having the role he was asked for to do yesterday because usually he was with Mathieu Chouanière. But I didn't like his game. Not a bad game on him, but just the fact that New England was so much better in midfield than CF Montreal in general.
Eve?
I think we've been saying all season long that Montreal has just been outnumbered in midfield against essentially every single team they've played.
Yeah.
And, they have yet to find a solution to save the two midfielders, whoever's back there, from all but drowning in opposition, whether it's the press or whether it's coming at them in a wave. So was I surprised to see more of the same? I mean, what you would have hoped that after a longer break, maybe something a little more concrete would have been established to help support those midfielders, but evidently not. I do largely agree with a fair bit of what Andy said. I do think Nathan Saliba tried really hard to be kind of a positive impetus when he did have the ball in trying to get it somewhere more productive than where he found himself on the pitch. So I think he had a lot of the time perhaps a good idea. I think the execution was off for sure at times. But I did appreciate, I think, that he wanted to kind of drive play forward positively. And it felt like he was also acting with a sense of urgency that I think some of the other teammates were lacking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I agree with that. And honestly, I'm surprised by your opinion, Andy, of Samuel Piet. I think he had an okay game. The problem is, and I agree exactly with what Eve said. I mean, what Sam says it the best. Same thing as every game. Again, seem completely surprised by what the opponent does. Every team that beats Montreal does the same thing: overload the midfield and force us to play along. And I feel that, again, when you look at Samuel Piet, because he has that kind of play where he's a ball-winning midfielder, gives a short pass right after. If you're not able to cope with the numbers of the opponent, you're not going to look good. And that's exactly what happened. But I haven't seen a lot of duels that he lost, Samuel Piet. When he was playing one-on-one with the player, it was rare that he would lose that duel. So for me, that's where, for me, it would be a bad performance for Samuel Piet. And also, I think he did try to play a bit more forward. At the same time, I loved Nathan Saliba. I thought that sometimes he forgot his defensive duties. He went forward a bit too much. I know he tried quite a few shots, which I love. That's a good thing. He needs to continue on that. But sometimes I feel that Piet was a bit left alone in the midfield a few times. Maybe he wasn't running enough. I know, Andy, you shared a few tweets where you see the defensive structure in transition, and you always see Nathan Saliba is not even in the picture. So you see it, when you play with a two-man midfield, in transition, the two men have to really run and, protect that midfield, which Piet tried to do, and Saliba didn't do enough. So that's it. But, when you look at Nathan Saliba, he's a facilitator. He's very good in the midfield, and he does it very well. So I can't wait to see what he's going to do, the rest of the season, but also next year.
Yeah, but I just want to add that because I don't think that Piet had a bad game. I think
Yeah, yeah.
he did what he could. I don't want to say he played bad, but I just think he was outmatched by New England's midfield
Well,
because
Carlos Heel is like,
he
I
is
would take
so
Carlos
good.
Heel on one leg,
He
on
is
my
Right.
so
team.
good. He was running
Yeah,
circles around our midfield by himself and creating
he
those
has been for
goals.
years. Yeah.
And that was just like, anyways, we were gonna talk about Laurent Courtois later, but that was just like
Yeah.
at some point somebody's got to be seeing what I'm seeing, right? What everybody's seeing. So yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the wingbacks. Two wingbacks, Tom Pierce and Jaquil Marshall-Rudy. If you don't mind, guys, can I start with the
Go
wingbacks?
on.
Because I have a lot
No,
to say. Thank
no.
you. Thank you, Eve. Andy, you're not welcome anymore. Um, uh, what a bad game for Tom Pierce. Wow. Wow. The first three goals were, if not entirely, but like in big part his fault.
Mm-hmm.
He was
No, the first two because he was subbed out at
first
halftime.
two. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
First two, he was really, really bad. And even we were talking about his crossing ability at one point. He crossed the ball that went to Rosie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, like, no, that wasn't his game. I'm not gonna judge him on this one game. Like, I wasn't gonna judge him on his first game where he was amazing. At that point, I think we saw the best and the worst of Tom Pierce.
I hope
I
that's the
really liked.
worst.
I hope so too. I really liked Jaquil Marshall-Rudy's game. I
Oh
think that he
yeah.
was very interesting. Good dribbling ability. Yes, of course, he still has. He didn't have a great game, but he still has a few things to learn defensively. Where sometimes I think he wasn't that good. But I like this game. I think that, again, it comes up to the first comment that I said. If we had someone in the box that could take headers, I think we would have seen a lot more crosses from Jaquil Marshall-Rudy, but he knew that it wasn't worth it to really cross the ball. But I liked what I saw from him. I think he was very interesting. Wellington doesn't agree with me. I missed Juan yesterday. The new boy from Toronto FC was not up to the task. I don't know. We're not watching the same game, I think. And we have zero defensive structure that falls on the coaching staff. We'll talk about coaching staff a bit later. But what did you guys think about the wing backs, Eve?
Yeah. I honestly I agree, I think, with everything you said. I'm sincerely hoping that's the worst of Tom Pierce. And
Yeah.
it can't get worse. But like you said, I think the sample size is too small just based on the limited number of games he's played with Montreal so far to suddenly make a declaration about his future here or anything like that. So level-headed. As for Marshall-Rudy, yeah, I'm not 100% sold necessarily on him being like the answer to Montreal's crossing woes. But I do like him a lot with the ball at his feet. I think it's no secret that he's a very, very talented player, and you can see that raw talent is there. It'll be really interesting to see. Hopefully he does get a lot more regular minutes and kind of is able to build up something, if the team kind of also gets his act together, because yesterday's circumstances weren't ideal. And I do think probably he was too far up the pitch on a few of the counters that New England took advantage of, including maybe some offside situations. But, that is something that within reason should be able to be fixed on the training pitch.
Andy?
Look, I completely agree with you in the Tom Pierce that he didn't have a good game, but I won't put that all on him because I think, based on what I've seen this season, the way Laurent Courtois likes to judge players is not necessarily by individual performances, but how the chemistry is going, and most importantly, of their wingbacks, which chemistry works best together. And that's why I think they did a double sub of Joaquin Sosa and Tom Pierce at halftime, because it just wasn't working with the two. I think Tom Pierce, his lack of defense needs a strong central defender behind him, like maybe a Alvarez or I don't know, somebody else that plays better defense than Joaquin Sosa. And that's what I think made it so like obvious that he had a bad game. As for Ruan, I because he's now playing with Dallas. I just did a little sneak peek to Dallas to see what was going on. He actually had an assist, and guess where that assist came from? It was a cross right to the middle. So that's
What?
like that was a big
That's new.
yeah.
That's new.
So a beautiful cross too, nonetheless. I was like, really? But no, JMR's performance, I liked it. I was a fan. I think again, very small sample size. I haven't seen his games at Toronto to be able to judge his talent level, but his skill level. Sorry, but I think he actually was very threatening on the right side. And I was gonna say this when we were talking about the midfield, but when Nathan Saliba took 3 shots, I think, on goal.
Yeah.
And out of those 3 shots, 2 of them, JMR was wide open on the right, and instead he decided to take a shot, which is nice. It's nice to see your midfield be brave like that and try to attempt shot. But there was a wide open JMR on the right.
But what would he have done? He can't cross the ball. Like, I don't know.
I mean, simple stuff makes it that you pass it to the flank and give yourself an opportunity to all your strikers. But if you're taking a shot outside the box, I can't tell you the percentages, but you have more
of course,
targets,
less percentage. But he all his shots were on target. Or two or
The
three.
first
Two
one,
of three. 2 of 3. There was 2 saves from on Nathan Saliba's shots.
okay,
So at least that.
yeah. But I mean, that like just to get that point across of like that he was very threatening on the right, and I liked his play. Just at the end of the game, there were 2 silly giveaways that he did, and one like a long pass that he just never got a hold of. And it's again mistakes that happen throughout the game, but it was just we're down 5-0, so every mistake that you make at that point, it's just that much bigger, right? So it's yeah. But I like his game. I like
okay.
Raheem Edwards though. We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about the subs later.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the central defense. Eve.
Oh boy.
That was bad. Go ahead.
It was everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I mean, like players like literally fell over themselves in the box to like be out of the way. I don't know. It's like no, I don't know. Like for some reason, we had situations where 2 out of the 3 central defenders were marauding up the pitch and getting. Then Montreal was being caught light on the count on coverage if New England countered. There were New England players who were just wide open. I had no idea. I could never have guessed who would be meant to be marking said players. Thankfully there weren't a ton of corners or anything like that in the game because I don't know if it would have improved. But in live play, certainly, like the central defenders were it felt like they were just like full minutes behind what was actually taking place on the pitch. It was like they were playing in an alternate reality. I don't know. Like I can't describe it. It was it's been a hot minute since I've seen that level of disorganization. Like, Montreal's been routed a couple of times this season, but I think this is the least organized I've seen the defense.
Oh.
I think.
I mean, it's where do you start? I mean, it was a terrible performance, a collective terrible performance from the 3 of them, and even after they changed to what seemed like a 4-back, sorry, it just seemed like Joel Waterman and George Campbell were not on the same page at all. Were not they just didn't fit each other's style, and it was it's a collective effort. The reason why we lost 5-0, it's not unto them. But it definitely put a lot more pressure, and I don't think they're either at their age or maturity or skill level to be able to handle that kind of pressure from a New England team that was clearly on all running on all cylinders last night. So, yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I asked the question to Laurent Courtois at the presser, and I'm like, why are you changing that central defense? We all know that you need those players to learn to you need to build on that chemistry in central defense. That's something that's like known in soccer. You need to build on that. And he said, "Oh, but sometimes it's been injuries, sometimes it's been bad performances, sometimes it's been the way we want to play." And then he said, "We thought that we would be able to play a bit more offensively and bring a player a bit more forward, like Joaquin Sosa or George Campbell, that would help, with the offensive, the tasks." But obviously, it didn't work, and he wanted to play in the half spaces, and that also didn't work either. So I don't know. And I asked the same question to Joel Waterman. Joel Waterman evaded the question a
He
bit.
was so
So
mad. He was so pissed.
he
I
didn't want to
mean,
be there.
if there's
No.
one
Well,
player, if there's one positive thing of the central defenders, guys, Joel Waterman is still taking these losses personal. I don't know
Yeah.
if he's the only player left in the locker that takes these losses personal, but he seems to really not be okay with losing.
mhm.
Yeah.
And that was what we saw yesterday, Hady, in the press conference. It almost seemed like the reporters were scared to ask questions of how angry he was. So, but no, obviously
No,
it's
I
not the
don't think
truth. But
they were.
he
It's just
seemed
that,
furious. He seemed really like, I don't want to be here right now or say
yeah,
anything.
we all
Well,
knew he didn't want to
undoubtedly
be
nobody
here.
would be. I
So
mean,
Yeah,
yeah, but
it's
he
just
he made it like he was like answering questions with his head down, not really like very short and brief answers, not giving a lot. It was tough. It was tough for him, and it showed. I completely agree with you, Andy. And he had a bad game. Let's put it out there. He had a very bad game, but I think not as bad as George Campbell and Joaquin Sosa, in my opinion. So yeah. Moving on, Jonathan Sirois, not a good game for him either, right?
no.
That was bad. That was bad too. Like, we can't say all 5 goals were his fault, but like at least one or two, one
the
for
last
sure.
one. The last
Mhm.
one. Yeah.
There's one where he's supposed to save it. Like,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. But we can't really blame the keeper, right,
No.
Eve?
Well, no, I mean, so much else went wrong before the ball reached him on essentially all of those occasions. That was almost just, I think, I don't know, like a contagion, maybe. It was like a virus was going throughout everybody, and it was just like, okay, and I'm just gonna miss it as well. No, overall, I mean, the quality of the chances that New England were afforded by Montreal, I think were such that it would have been difficult for most keepers.
I agree. I agree. Andy, anything to add on
No,
Sirois?
so well said. So well said. That's not a Sirois thing. This is a goalie thing. I mean, he's young and he's got to improve. But yeah, he's given us so much. I'm not gonna give Jonathan Sirois a bad grade.
Perfect. So, just we're not. I forgot to take a snapshot, a screenshot of the standings, but we're still 1 point away from playoffs, so that didn't change.
Woo!
But we're just also 1 point away from last position in the East, so that changed it.
There we go.
So,
Yeah, at least I'm glad you told the whole story because I was ready to leave
of
in there if
course,
you hadn't.
of course, of course, of course. So the optimistic and then the pessimistic, and by saying both, I'm realistic, right?
There you go.
So yeah, so I think we still have a chance of doing something from the season. I'm starting to be very pessimistic at our chances, but let's wait and see, like we said. So before the next segment, and we're going to talk about it, it's what's next. What's next in the season? What are we going to do? What are the steps that needs to be taken? But before we do that, we're going to answer all the questions that were received, because I think it's going to already answer a big chunk of the questions that we were going to ask ourselves. So let's start with the first questions. Oh yeah, I forgot about the subs. You're right, Eve. Thank you for letting me know.
I don't think it was me. I think it was Andy.
Oh, Andy, sorry. Thanks, Andy, for letting me know.
It doesn't have to be that much.
So subs, who wants to start? Let's talk about the subs all together. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Andy.
Well, look, out of the 4 that he did, Raheem Edwards, horrible game. I'm just gonna make it quick. Raheem Edwards, I don't think he had a good game at all. and he's suspended for the next one, which whatever, I guess he'll be missed. But Lassi Lappalainen, that kid can stay
Really good.
healthy. If he can stay healthy, he is a difference maker. I am telling you, a lot of people are always joking around, and I get it. They have every reason to do it. That he's always unhealthy, and and he's expensive. He's not cheap, but he is talented and he can play. But he needs to stay healthy. As for the other ones, they were okay.
I mean, they also came in rather late in the match.
Yeah. So, but again, down 5-0, you're hoping they have nothing to lose and they play their hearts out. I can't really say they did much, but again, as we've said it over and over again, who's really throwing them the ball, or who's serving them the ball to be able to do anything with it, right? So it's hard to judge their ability.
Yeah. It's funny if you said they came a bit late, but they came at the 62nd minute.
Oh my god!
No,
I think the last two, Opoku and
62nd minute.
Oh my god! Why did I think it was way later?
But as soon as they came in, as soon as the game came in, Eve, the game went like this.
Yeah, maybe it was just that. Maybe it was just like, it was the foregone conclusion of the match.
But because they didn't have an impact at all on the game, so they were bad. Sunusi and Opoku, they were very bad too.
Yeah.
So yeah, Eve, anything to add on the subs? Or
no, I would just say that I think definitely Lassi was kind of the only sub that made a positive impression. And as always, the question with him is going to remain: is he going to have consistent minutes? Yes, no, maybe. To kind of build upon that, we'll have to see. But I don't know. I've been hopeful and I've been burned. So, you know me, I'm not going to be hopeful.
Wellington thinks that Lassi's talented if he stays healthy, a bit like Andy.
Agreed.
Honestly, I don't really agree because it's a one-trick pony. And I think that people forgot and other teams forgot that he existed, but it's always the same thing. He just dribbles a bit, then goes on the right and tries to curl his shot. And that's what we saw 2-3 times. It's amazing because when this trick works, he
looks great.
Yeah, he looks very good because he does it very well. He doesn't have anything else in his repertoire. So, oh come on, we've been watching him for 4 years. Like he doesn't have anything else. Yeah. 4, 5.
He came in 2019. It was like right when I moved to Montreal. Like he signed.
Okay, 5 years. So So yeah, 5 years.
He's talented, but yeah, you're right. One-trick pony.
One-trick pony. Yeah. But yeah, no, he was very good, I think, in that game. I completely agree. So now we can move on to the questions. So let's start with G Money, the first one that he had.
Money.
Sorry, it's just not clicking. There, I got it.
Oh. Please predict how many points CF Montreal will get the rest of the season. I say 1. Eve, he's as pessimistic as you, even more pessimistic as you, I think. Yeah. So how many points would you think?
Oh yeah.
Do you want me to give you the names of the clubs that we're going to play against?
I've got it here, and I'm thrilled to see that we're going to be playing against second position Cincy to start this last stretch, which always bodes well. I'm going to say, because I mean, you can't even say that their home matches are situations where they're reasonably expected to pick up points. You would think maybe New England, they'd be reasonably expected to pick up points. Probably not, based on what we just saw. I honestly think, like, for the mentality, I think other teams are coming into this, obviously, with, most of the teams that Montreal has left to play: Atlanta, Charlotte, New England, Cincinnati. Aside from Cincinnati, most of the teams that Montreal has to play, in San Jose, I guess, because they are in the Western Conference, are direct competitions for that, bottleneck, if you will, of kind of 7th, 8th, 9th position to sneak into the playoffs. So I think that based on the way Montreal is playing, I suspect all of their opposition is going to have a much greater impetus and a much stronger kind of, the knife between their teeth mentality that I'm not sure Montreal has it in them to match right now. We just really, really are not seeing that. I'm going to say 6
0
points.
What? More than G Money. G Money said 1.
Well, okay, no, like one is literally everybody gets fired. So I'm gonna say 6 because, like, I don't know, maybe VAR does something and like they got a lucky penalty or something a few times.
Okay, Andy.
If they get 0 points, nobody's getting fired. By the way, just so you know. All right.
We don't
This
know.
is
We don't
no.
know yet. We
This is
don't
a
know yet.
transitional year. We'll get into that after, but no, nobody's getting fired. Anyways, I think we'll win 3 games, so we'll get 9, and the rest will either tie or lose. No, we'll lose, but we'll probably get 9 points.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get 8 points, so a
Okay.
bit less than 9. So I would say 8 points. And yeah, let's wait and see. I think six is a big possibility. 0 also. We don't know. Honestly, we don't
No, but
know the
as
teams.
optimistic, but that's the thing. Like as optimistic as I can be, I can say, "Oh, I want them to win all games." But after yesterday's showing, and it's not that
They can't
it
be
was
in
a terror.
denial.
It's not that it was a terrible perform. It's not the terrible performance that makes me be negative. It's the fact that I can understand that their purpose is not necessarily to win all games. I think what Laurent Courtois is using these next games till the end of the season is to really now start instilling his style and his way of playing for the future. That's the way. That's what I'm seeing. So I don't think this is an opinion. Might not agree
Mhm.
with it, but this I don't think they're necessarily aiming to win more than make sure that the standard of the team is there and making sure that that as we see the discipline that he's taking on players now left and right, and also his style, but not necessarily to win all games. That's what I think. That's why it's so hard to me to be so optimistic about the next few games. I'm just going to be optimistic about seeing them develop into a style of play, finding something within themselves. So that's
We'll
all it
talk
is for
about
me.
this a bit later because I don't agree with you. So moving on, we're gonna take Steven's question because I think it's gonna tie very well with
Okay.
what we were saying, and it's our good friend Steven Buckridge asking for predictions for Cincinnati and Montreal. He says always my favorite fixtures. Uh, it's funny if you guys don't know Stephen Buckridge. He's the one that has a podcast in Cincinnati. He lives in Cincinnati, and the podcast is "You Ain't Lying." Very interesting podcast. I would strongly suggest you to go and listen to them. A friend of the pod since what 4 years now,
20,
Eve.
2021, I think is when,
Yeah, 3-4 years. So very nice guy, by the way. So predictions? Who wants to go on a prediction against Cincinnati? Go ahead, Eve. 6-0
4-0.
for Montreal, right?
No, no.
Come on, Eve.
Honestly,
I too am a one-trick pony. Actually,
That is so good.
honestly, I think a 2-2 draw. I'm gonna say why. Okay. Yes,
In your
Cincinnati
throat.
is second. Okay. But if you look at the last 4 games of the season in
Mhm.
MLS, they lost, of course, against Miami. They lost against the Red Bulls 3-1. They lost at home against Chicago. And they lost at home against Charlotte. 3-1 against Charlotte. So they haven't won a game in MLS since the famous 6-1 win against Inter Miami on the 6th of July. So in the last 4 games, they lost all 4 games in MLS. So I feel they're not on the right track right now. Montreal too, of course, but I have
but
a feeling that
Montreal
we can
is
get
like the
something out of
perfect
this.
team against which clubs
Yeah,
that are
possibly.
floundering. How many times has Montreal launched a flounder? Just did it again last night, sure.
I don't know. I don't
No,
know.
I get your theory. I'm just saying, like, Montreal has just like Seattle, they did it for them. Who else did they do it for this? I don't know.
Oh,
Oh,
every
They
but
team.
laid
Seattle
down.
DC,
had a very very bumpy season. Like
DC
This is true. This
United,
is
off
true.
and
even Toronto. No,
Yeah.
Toronto went down. No,
They
nah,
Toronto went down.
Toronto's bad now. Yeah,
Toronto went down after
very
that.
bad.
Well, they lost or they won last night. So
Woohoo!
Yeah, but so Andy,
I
prediction.
mean, look, I last time when they came to play here, I thought they were going to beat us 5-0 because they're just that good of a team. But now, like the way they've gone through a season, I'd probably go with Hady, either a draw or they beat us like 2-0 or something. Just a draw. I'll go for a draw, 1-1.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
1-1.
But I just find it interesting. You guys are thinking Montreal's going to score a goal.
They will. It'll be an own goal probably, but
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
They all count.
We'll see. We'll see. When we have two strikers, I think we can score goals because I think that at one point you're gonna have to have two strikers. Moving on, G Money number two, second question that he sent us. Do you guys think that Saputo watches the game or just checks the attendance and doesn't care? By the way, just to answer your question, he was at the game yesterday and he left after the third goal at the 71st minute.
bad.
Oh no way.
That's bad.
That's what Jean-François Théotonio from La Presse wrote. So
that's
yeah.
bad.
Yeah, so I think I answered the question pretty quick. Moving on.
I think Saputo, just like us, he's a human being and he's passionate about this team. Whether he writes a check, whether he makes the right decision, wrong decisions, he's passionate about the team. And he hates it when they lose and he loves it when they win. So if I were an owner of a team, a president, I would probably leave if my team is losing 3-0. That's humiliating at home. So to answer his question, I think you should ask yourself as a fan, what would you do to your team? He's not I don't think as the owner of CF Montreal, he necessarily knows how to disconnect the love and business aspect of it when he's watching the game. So it's I don't know. It must be hard for him too, since he loves this team.
Eve, I'm going to show you a few comments from Patrick. If Joey was president, he would not accept this. Say what you want about him, but you knew he wanted to win. And then bring back Joey. I'm serious. That's why I wanted to direct this to you. So what do you think about that?
Well, we certainly can't say he is often, Italy with his head in the sand, not being in touch with the reality on the ground in Montreal, as he was indeed there last night. I still think it is for the best that he is not directly involved in the day-to-day operations of the club. I'm not saying I think in the long term, I think kind of just based on how it has gone historically, I think it's been a bumpy ride.
Of course.
So obviously, depending on how things go this season, maybe he's going to be a bit more involved on a short-term basis to kind of restabilize things in their special little organigram and so on and so forth. But I do think overall it is for the best that he kind of is not as hands-on as he was when Montreal first entered MLS. I am still in belief of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have nothing more to say. I completely agree with you.
Perfect.
Good. Moving on.
Yeah.
Let's look at Tate's question. So, can you help me understand why Opoku has disappeared from playing? Has he not fully recovered from his injury? Or is something else going on? He seems to be heading in the right direction at the end of last season and the beginning of this one before injury. Thanks. Thank you, Tate, for always being here and listening to us and asking us questions. Honestly, I don't understand. He played yesterday as a sub, but he didn't do anything. But honestly, I have a big problem with the management of players that we have. I just don't understand. I do not have an answer for your question. Do you guys have an answer?
I mean, look, has Opoku's performances given you anything to say, well, he needs more minutes? Not me. Yesterday, too, there were some runs that JMR did some passes to him where he seems to have the speed at times, but sometimes he doesn't. And the passes are okay. They're not bad. So his performances are to me are something that leave a lot to be desired, in the sense that I think he can do more. I think he has the tools to do more, but we've seen him take some shots and miss some shots. We've seen him pass the ball erratically. So it's really, I think he has the talent and he shows sparks of it, but he needs to show that more consistent. We don't know how practice is going as well, but I think he has the tools, but he just it hasn't clicked with this team since his injury, at least.
I think it hasn't clicked with Laurent Courtois mostly. because
Could be.
I don't think he was given a very clear chance with the team. If you want to give a chance for someone, you have to give him minutes, and he didn't have a lot of minutes this year since his injury. Since he came back, I haven't seen a lot of Kwadwo Opoku in 2-3 games in a row. You look at someone like Joseph Martinez, he got his chance quite a few times. Yeah. You see Vilsan, he got his chance quite a few times. Yes, he's unhealthy, but he got his chance quite a few times. And some players have gotten their chance, but for me, Opoku didn't get his chance, and Matthias Kokaro didn't get enough of his chance. Now, it's a bit different because Kokaro hasn't been very professional, but that's something else.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. All I was gonna say is just it's weird, the whole Opoku situation, because like when they interviewed him at a press conference, he said they asked him what
Wellington says that Duke is better than Opoku, so he hates Opoku even more than Duke. Yes.
But no, it's just like they interviewed him in a press conference, and he said they asked him. I forgot who asked him, why aren't you playing? So why aren't you getting the opportunities that you want to get? And he said, well, the coach has told me that I'm missing on my opportunities. Like I'm the opportunities I've been given, I'm missing my chances. So I don't know if that continues being a problem, but again, his performances haven't given a lot to be looking forward to him in that sense.
Yeah. Moving on. So we have, let's go with Maxime's question. No specific question, but the starting 11. Sorry about that, Max, but we already answered this at the beginning of the pod. So we talked about the starting 11. So I'm not going to go again at that. I should have maybe said it at that point. Sorry about that. Eric. CF Montreal, I think, moving out to Detroit, Sacramento, Pittsburgh. Please ask yourself how long this counterproductive situation can last. No, CF Montreal will not move, in my opinion. No. I don't think so.
Forget about it. The president said it. They're not going anywhere.
But I don't think that even MLS wants to lose the French connection with CF Montreal. So I think it adds a bit of
difference.
Yeah, exotic things. So they like it. They like that.
And players like the city. Players do like this city. They do like Montreal. Those that come from South America, the ones that also come from the United States, they like Montreal as a city. So.
Exactly. Mario, it's gonna be yours, Eve. Some say that Courtois has lost the dressing room. Seeing the number of players that have been benched this season compared to all the previous seasons, could it be possible that he tries to manage the players the same way he used to manage the next pro team?
The thought did cross my mind. I'm not sure if it's exactly, that he's trying to be the exact same manager that he was, because obviously with your next pro team, it is a lot more young players who probably do require kind of, number one, the approach that Thierry Henry was just so averse to, bless his heart, and also kind of a lot more maybe firm guidance. Whereas, when you have players who've been doing this for 5, close to 10 years, they know how to maintain themselves, and they don't necessarily need to be like micromanaged to the same degree, right? So I think definitely based on how many professional disagreements it seems have been had this season, particularly with players for whom this is not their first rodeo, in playing professional soccer. I do think probably there is a degree of naivete that Laurent Courtois approached managing a fully professional senior team with, that he probably has not taken the best approach from at least a man management or a player management perspective. As to whether he's trying to treat them like kind of, little 17, 18, 19-year-old players, I would hope he's, got the sense not to do that. But I would suspect that he is kind of cutting his teeth as a coach and trying to find that balance in how to communicate effectively and manage more experienced players who have been around the block, because it is
Yeah,
going to be different.
I've read that quite a few times that he seems to have a lot of trouble handling the veterans and the more experienced players. And it looks like it. You bring a very good point, Eve. And I think that was the question of Mario. Is he like looking at players like they're just young people that are 18, 19, 20, and they don't know anything about life? And that's why it's frustrating the experienced players. That's a possibility. I don't know, Andy, if you have a thought on this.
Look, I think it's not necessarily that he lost the locker room, more than it seems that without wanting to, he's splitting the locker room, in the sense that some people, they are for or against certain things, and there's no collective agreement on anything that makes them go forward. So that's a problem it's a problem as it is, but I think it can be simply resolved by him. Maybe, I think it was asked yesterday in the press conference, like, are you guys planning on having a, players only meeting? I think Hady, you were the one that asked that, right? Like, is this maybe in the book, something that to have it in? And apparently they've already had it. They had it back in May. They had already won. So it's one of those things where I think it can be fixed. I don't think he's lost the locker room, because the players have said repeatedly, this is not the coach's fault. This is on us, and we have to try to find who actually wants to do this, right? So it's I don't know if it's the management of veterans, or maybe like just different personalities in the locker room that are clashing right now, that are having a hard time with maybe his approach. But I think he does have a split locker room. I don't know if it's by age wise, nationality wise, language wise. I don't know what it is, but it does seem split.
Yeah, it does seem that something is not really working.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a couple more questions. So Anton is the next one, and I think that's directed to me. What would happen in Marseille if their club did the equivalent of this? Supporters would burn the club down. It's just as simple as that. And I'm not even joking, guys, but
Yeah,
it
you're right.
happened. It happened. So it happened not too long ago with a president called Jacques-Henri Hérault. The supporters went into the training facilities and they burned the trees, and it was disgusting. So
let it be said, we're not encouraging that.
we're not
And
at all
No.
encouraging that. That's not the way we should confront the
resolve our
situation and
issues.
address the situation. But yeah, in Marseille, they're just crazy. So it's just different. And a lot of fans weren't very happy with the way those fans reacted. So it's not everybody that thinks that that's the good thing to do.
Well,
But
it's also because Europeans and South Americans view soccer in a different view than North Americans. North Americans are completely fine with, like, say, losing. There's always a next season, right? That's how it is. There's always a next season, maybe better next time at next season, right? But in South America and Europe, they're very much about, like, now, today, I love this club, and do what you got to do, kind of deal, right? Bring the players that you got to bring in. So it's in Marseille is no different.
Exactly. Exactly. And last but not least, I think it's the question that's going to be able to for us. We're going to be able to transition from that directly to the rest of the questions. So Dr. Foot, sorry. So
no, sorry, my bad. I clicked the wrong one.
Mario, Dr. Foot. It's easy to blame recruiting and or lack of talent. It seems to me that this group is not as bad as the results obtained. What are the reasons for this? The coach's choices, lack of group chemistry, others. Who wants to start?
I mean, I think for me, the sheer. Sorry, I decided to run away with it. I think it's just the sum total of the instability in Montreal. Not just this season, but the past couple of seasons. Really, we've had a different coach each of the last 3 seasons. Olivier Renard, who was, a huge part in signing most of these players and obviously built quite a relationship with them and other staff at the club, is now gone. Gabriel Gervais is now filling the role of sporting director with a consultant as his assistant. And of course, he's going to have a different approach to that person had. There's a brand new coach who's coaching a senior team for the first time in his life. Like, I think it's just a symptom. And as well, obviously, a lot of players left in the 2022 and 2023 off seasons with therefore new players, some of whom are experienced in MLS, some of whom are not, and some of whom are brand new to professional soccer, are also filling their places and adjusting to the team, the city, possibly the league, so on and so forth. So I think for me, it's just been a really, really tumultuous last couple of years, and kind of this like feels like it has to be the maximum level, if you will, of chaos within an organization.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's one more step in the chaotic direction that we can take still.
Okay,
Because
within
there's
like the
never an
realm
end.
of
There's never an end to this with CF Montreal. But being very pessimistic today too. Andy, I'm going to share just a few comments that we received since the beginning of the pod, okay? And I want you to react on that, not one by one, but at the end, if you don't mind. So, first of all, of course, our dear friend Sam Savvy. No, let's start with Patrick White. It doesn't help when you revamp the team mid-season. So that's one of the comments. The second one is Sam Savvy, Kokaro not dressed, Sunusi bench, the two players who can actually hold up the ball and be effective in a long ball setting. This club has a lot of problems, but none bigger than Laurent Courtois. And then getting outcoached by Caleb Porter is almost something to be celebrated. Riley Duffy saying it's becoming hard to make the drive from the Plattsburgh area, guys. He comes, of course, from Plattsburgh for the games. Same, I think, as Stade, if I'm not mistaken, or nearby Plattsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. Patrick says the season was lost when Renard left. Then Tamis said Courtois has to go, should have been fired last night. And Wellington says Laurent Courtois' managerial skills is lacking. And we talked about Joey and Patrick saying that Joey needs to be back. And we have one more question, and I think sums it up. Who's going to leave first, Courtois or Gervais? Go ahead.
I mean, look, it sounds like the common theme is like Laurent Courtois is the problem. I don't think he's the problem, guys. Honestly, how many times in clubs in Europe and around the world, even in South America now, we see coaches that last half a season and they're not able to produce results and then move on to the next coach. So now today, coaches are expected to like respond right away, to be able to do right everything right away. Their style has to be done right away. Wins need to come right away. And I just think that right now we're dealing with Laurent Courtois, who's trying to impose a new style into his team, while also receiving new pieces mid-season, which doesn't help. You're absolutely right, but it's focused. If you know about the team, you know that they're focused on the future, and they've made very public statements that their goal is to develop the young players and sell them to Europe. That's what they are, and that's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen soon for any of the players, I think. We are dealing with a rookie coach, a coach that is new to MLS, and we've seen him make mistakes, and I think he's probably even harsher on himself about these mistakes than we are as fans. But as a fan, it is completely understandable that you would want the next coach, and because it's going to be better than Laurent Courtois, somebody that has 30 years. But when Rémi Garde was fired, we had that guy Wilder Cartagena, right?
Oh, Wilmer Cabrera.
Cabrera, yeah. Sorry, I'm
Wilmer.
thinking of Peruvian player. That everybody was like, okay, well, new coach, new, and sure enough, now I don't even think he's in the league anymore. So it's one of those things that it's not all the grass is no, he's still coaching, but I think in the lower leagues.
Oh, maybe.
But anyway, so what all I'm saying is the grass isn't always green on the other side, and if you really, really want to see this, like you really want to make a judgment on Laurent Courtois, I would tell you to stay patient with him, because I think we can see a difference when he has more experience coaching, and hopefully some stability. As to who will go first, Hard to say, man, because I don't know what the dynamic is with Gervais and Saputo, not Courtois. It's the dynamic. It's hard to say how that's going. So,
if you don't mind, Eva, I'm going to challenge a bit more, Andy, if you don't mind. So, first challenge that I have for you, Laurent Courtois saying that it's his transition year, and then you have Gabriel Gervais saying, no, we want to reach the playoffs. And we have to reach the playoffs with the caliber that we have in this team, with the talent that we have with this team. We want to reach the playoffs. Don't you see, first of all, some sort that those two are not on the same line? That's the first thing. First question for you.
Mhm.
Second question for you. I agree with you that we don't need to go ahead and every time fire a coach. But this coach, as of right now, hasn't shown any anything that he would die on a hill for, any principles that he would die on a hill for. Not a starting 11, not even one player that's been in the same position all the time. We haven't seen anything from Laurent Courtois at all. We don't know who he is as a coach as of right now.
Mhm.
There's nothing that we can say this guy is learning, because there's nothing here. You see Thierry Henry in his first year, he had convictions, a bit too much, but he had convictions. See Wilfried Nancy in the first year, and he did learn. Exactly. And then you see Wilfried Nancy, he had convictions, and everybody was like, all the journalists, all the medias were saying, playing from the back, framing from the back, why are you doing this? You're losing too many games, too many balls, you get scored on and everything. And he kept going with this, and then they developed something, and the year after they finished second in the East. But we haven't seen any sort of consistency from Laurent Courtois in any of his decisions. So why are you still defending the fact that he would keep and he should keep his job?
Besides him being inconsistent, because you had two questions, I forgot the first one already. I was so focused on the second one, but the
fact that they're not on the same.
Same
wavelength.
The fact that they're not on the same page is weird, is strange to me. But I did told you guys last week that after that little Joseph Martinez comment, it does feel like maybe the media team is like every time trying to train him, like, hey, by the way, you're supposed to be saying these 10 things, because there's things that. But again, this is maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe they really are in different pages. Maybe Courtois is going rogue on his own style. I don't know, or maybe he's learning. Laurent Courtois has shown consistency in some things. What he hasn't shown is adaptability. Okay, he hasn't shown adaptability to a situation, to formations, to game situations that actually Hernan Losada last year was really good at. In adjusting when it needed to be done, and it's not something that we've seen from Laurent Courtois. With Laurent Courtois, exactly as Wellington said, Losada was blasted last year with less talented players, no double standard in assessing coach achievement. Yeah, exactly. But Hernan Losada, again, he was very adaptable. At halftime, we would see huge changes. We have not seen that from Courtois as far as the substitutions and the lineup decision. But he has stuck with the formation for the most part until very recently that he started changing to a back four. But he's also been very consistent with his discipline with the players, the discipline he's trying to put into the players. Seems at least that way from an outsider's. But yeah, beyond that, like you said, Hady, he hasn't really shown, say, players or a back three or something that he will say, I will stick with them for whatever reason because I believe in them. Again, I'm using the excuse right now that he's a rookie coach. He's got to learn somewhere, somehow. And that's what we're seeing. It's growing pains. I think it's growing pains. But what would hurt you, Hady or Eve, more? Mm-hmm. To see him succeed here and be patient with him, see him succeed, and actually start seeing him change, just like you guys said, Thierry Henry change and all that? Or would you rather see him go to another MLS team where they're patient with him and he brings like those lessons or those baggages that he carries from him, and he succeeds in that MLS club, just like Wilfried Nancy did, probably learned things here and took it over there and grew and all that, and now he's unstoppable.
So he learned here.
Exactly. But would you guys want? Would you guys want that from Laurent Courtois? Like fire him and then maybe somebody else gives him a second chance and he succeeds there, or we wait? We are patient with the process with him.
I think I think that's not really two ideal things to compare, just because Wilfried Nancy, well, he did move on. He did also have success with Montreal, and also I think like the I think with the way things are going right now, just from what we've heard and from what we do actually know, is that, you know, how long kind of can you put up with the damage of, you know, a poor relationships with players, the, you know, lack of consistent style, which is going to, you know, eventually not have you consistently selling out your stadium, because I don't think enough people are interested in watching Montreal lose 5-0 at home on a regular basis. Personally, I would not pay money for that. You know, so there are like more, you really have to weigh the risks, and you have to weigh whether that patience is a worthy investment or not. Because at the end of the day, you know, players are going to be miserable, fans are going to be discontent, and that's going to reflect on the club in several spheres.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you, Eve, 100%. You know, I'm the one that usually wants to wait for a coach to learn and to understand his environment and everything. But at one point, I'm not going to say he's spineless, Laurent Courtois, but you know, he's a good guy. You know, I meet him face to face and I ask my questions to him. He's a very good guy. But at the end of the day, in the soccer world, you need to have convictions. You need to know what you want to put in place. And I haven't seen that at all this year from here. At one point, you need to choose your starting 11. You need to say, you know what, guys? I don't like Joseph Martinez. He's out. I don't care what you guys think. I don't like Matias Cocaro. I want Bryce Duke every time as a number 10. Just do it. You know, at one point, you need to see something that makes sense. You need to have your starting back three that's here from one game to another. Whatever the result, I don't care about the result. If you want to grow as a team, you need to make sure, okay, this is how things are moving from now on. And we haven't seen that at all from him. And that's what scares me a bit. Now, I agree with you also, Andy, that yes, maybe next year he's going to grow into a different coach and he's going to be even better because this is his rookie year. That's a possibility too. But when we look at the club with the data that we have as podcasters right now, I don't see anything. There's nothing that I can judge him on, except that he's a very nice guy and he's very pleasant. But I didn't see anything throughout the season. There's nothing that I can say, you know what, he did that well. There's nothing. So that's where I'm at right now. You know,
yeah. Would the playoffs warrant a firing for you guys if he doesn't make it, or if he does?
I don't care about the playoffs.
I honestly think if things continue in the same way and we don't see any coherent structure, you know, we still see players being benched or being upset, you know, and we still see Montreal struggling to score goals. Like, basically, if there's no improvement, then somehow, then yeah, 100%. I do think like if he's able to all of a sudden turn things around in these last 8 games and, you know, adopts those things that Hady is looking for, then I think there might be hope for keeping him because of how I think keen Montreal is to, you know, cease being a revolving door for a little bit.
Yeah, because in any kind of project, even if it's not soccer, you need to have your lieutenants. You need to have the people. If you're leading a project, you need the people that you rely on to be next to you, whoever they are. Who are the people that he's relying on right now? We don't know.
Corey
Ray. Don't know.
We're talking about players, right? Corey Ray is his boss.
Yeah, well, he's only brought his
guys
guys
not
now.
even his boss, really.
Yeah.
He's not, but like he's in a decision-making
Yeah.
role. So
Yeah, sure.
he's kind of, he has like, yeah. So
But I mean, like it's also like, just to kind of respond to you guys, it's because it's very valid points, Hady. Honestly, it's very valid. But I still think that, yes, I mean, his most positive trait we've gotten so far is that he's a nice guy. But has the club really put him in a good position this season with everything going on and things that they've done? Huh? It's not his doing. The Mathieu Chouanière contract, the Olivier Renard and Vasily Kermanzid is leaving. Are these things? I mean, the club was literally putting him in the forefront to answer these questions after these huge things happened. And he, I mean, I can't even begin to understand that he probably just signed up to be a coach. He just wants to coach, but instead he's having to carry all these huge responses to the media, to us, right? So it's I don't know if the club has necessarily placed him in the best position to be a rookie coach in that sense.
yeah, okay. I have a couple of questions for you still, and then we can move on. I think to one last thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
First of all, okay. First question for you. You see Sunusi Ibrahim being benched. You see Matias Kokaro not being even dressed yesterday. And then you see a player that he said betrayed him get the start. Where's the coherence in this?
That doesn't make any sense to me. That part doesn't make any sense to me, except him trying to, again, trying to be consistent with his discipline and disciplining the players when they
But
don't do
he's
something
not
well.
consistent.
But as the Joseph Martinez situation, again, we have no idea what conversation happened with him and Joseph and the president and what was said. Um, but it doesn't make sense to me that he played 90 minutes. I mean, it just, at some point, the players might not even take
Okay.
Laurent Courtois' discipline seriously anymore either,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay, I'll ask this last question to Eve because we've been.
I'm getting
We've been,
attacked. I feel
yeah.
attacked.
Ah, no, you're not attacked. No, you're not attacked because it's very nice
I'm
what
just
you're
kidding.
saying.
It's a
You have
joke. Yeah,
very
it's a
valid
joke.
points. But Eve, what's next for CF Montreal? You know, there's so many things. Do you need to fire the coach? Do you need to fire the president?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to sign more players? And some people are hinting to Romel Kyoto coming back because he's on free transfer.
He's
Do
not coming
you
back.
what do you need to do right now? What's the next step? Or do you just need to wait until the end of the season to take decisions and just scrap that season altogether?
Yeah, I honestly think by this stage in the game, I think enough damage has been done that like anything drastic right now won't necessarily be beneficial. I do think playoffs are a pipe dream for this team. Like even if, it was a new coach in place next Saturday, number one, I don't even know like who's available, who'd be interested in the job, because I'm sure they must be looking at it and be like, ugh. But I don't think firing Gervais is necessarily. I can't imagine that being on the cards myself because, technically his role is president. While he does oversee things, there are things I think that have gone right for Montreal. Like if you look at how many, and like believe me, I'm not like thrilled. I'm not like, oh yeah, hail corporate. But like they've got so many like partnerships this season that they've added. The stadium has been selling out. Pretty much every match, et cetera, et cetera. So like there are things I think on the business side that have been going right for this club. So I find firing Gervais to be a very unlikely choice because I think as president, he is also quite intimately involved with the business side of things. But yeah, I think sportingly, I kind of think unless something truly like, that you can't come back from happens, I think you have to see if something positive comes out of these last 8 games, and then if not, take your decisions.
Eve, I'm going to challenge you this time because I did challenge Andy.
Mm-hmm.
So, because he's going to feel attacked. So we have Salam that says, I think things should be done ASAP. We can't wait until the end of the season. You have Riley a bit before that said that it's getting hard for him to do the trip to Montreal. You're right now at the end of August. You're going to start September. We all know what happens usually in September. It's a renewal of season ticket season tickets members.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you need to show something that gives them hope in order for them to renew their season tickets? Don't you need to tell the fans that
Sure.
suffered that 5-0 loss
Yeah.
at home that you're hearing them and things are being done?
Yeah, like I hear it's just a matter of, if we look at this Montreal organization, like it's been, a new coach every year. They've failed to make playoffs more times than they've made them. So and people have bought their season tickets and renewed, and for all intents and purposes, we expect Lionel Massio will still be in Montreal, or will still be making a visit at least to Montreal next season. Which will undoubtedly be the impetus for a few people to keep their season tickets. So, like, respectfully, I don't think, if the organization has never tried anything, like they didn't do anything drastic last year when things were less than hot for Montreal. So I struggle to imagine them doing anything drastic this year, just as a bid to try to retain a few season tickets.
Andy, anything to add?
No.
No?
It's just unless we have that Messi effect again, they'll renew it. But beyond that, what hope are they giving us? I mean,
I
what
don't know,
reason do
man.
you? Unless you really, really follow the team again 1,000%. I'm talking about the everyday Joe that just likes to watch
Yeah.
soccer. There's really
Oh,
nothing
no.
to be excited except if Messi maybe comes. But for those of us who are invested in the team and follow it day by day and know the signings and know the potentials and are excited for the future of these players, to see them grow, it's worth it. But for others, what's the
No, you got to be
call?
made of
Like,
tough stuff to be a Montreal
you,
soccer fan.
you
I've said it for years.
yeah, you have
Yeah,
two
you've been saying
Toronto
that for
kids. You
years.
have two Toronto kids in the squad. You're reducing Montreal kids or kids from Quebec and adding Toronto kids. So that's not really a selling point per se, because again, there's a lot of people that will see just that, just our own people from here playing in the field. Some people will see it that way, That's the entertaining part. But
Yeah.
they're going differently.
I really do like Tokyo Tylenol's comment with the brilliant analogy, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tokyo Tylenol says, making changes at any stage with this team smells like moving deck chairs on the Titanic.
It's so
Ooh,
yeah, I completely agree. I
it's
really love this.
spicy. I'm going to, I have never used that analogy, but I think I am going to add that to my repertoire. So thank you, Tokyo Tylenol.
So next week we're gonna hear you say this then.
Well, I could definitely think of a context in which I could use it, for sure.
I'm pretty sure you're gonna do
I'll
that.
weasel it in somewhere.
Okay, I think it was a very depressing show,
Yeah.
as you can imagine. So I'm like, why not finish it with something fun? Because it's been a while that we haven't done something fun. So for people that don't know, we have a game that's called Choices. So we have a couple of choices. So for people that don't know what choices are, it's a game where I give you, either you, Andy, or Eve, I give you two choices, and it's going to be two difficult choices to choose from, and you're going to have to choose one of those two and explain why you chose this one and not the other. Are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll start with Andy because it's the first time he does that. So
Yeah, I've never
we'll start
played
with
this.
you.
I'm nervous.
Mm.
Yeah.
If you were able to change one of these results, which one would you choose and why? The 5-0 loss at home yesterday against the Revs, or the 5-1 loss in Toronto earlier
Good
this
question.
year?
I thought about that actually. Which one was worse? Which one I would change? I would change the Toronto one, just because of the time that it happened. During the time that it happened, this was in May. It feels like 6 months ago, right? But it was like not that long ago, and it was such a needed win at that point. We were going through such a tough stretch that I would have changed that, because we needed that. But instead, it dug us even deeper into our depression at that point. So yeah, I would change 1,000% choose that one. Yeah, yesterday wasn't any better, but that Toronto one.
Yeah.
Was,
No, from a morale perspective, I 100% agree with you. And obviously,
Yeah.
with improved morale, who knows how some of those other results would have gone.
Yeah, you know what? I would have chosen the 5-0 loss against the Revs yesterday
Yeah.
because I think we need a bit of happiness around that club right now. With everything that happened, for me, Olivier Renard leaving, all the mess around, everything. I think that after the Leagues Cup, a win would have been like the start of a new season, the beginning of a new story. And I feel that, that 5-1 loss is already very far in our mind already. So I don't know. I would have changed that
Fair.
loss. Maybe because we're only the day after
Yeah.
that said event.
Yeah, it's still
But
burning a little bit.
exactly.
Because if it would have been the Toronto one today, how do you 1,000% choose the Toronto one? Because
Yeah, for sure.
especially
for
that
sure,
is Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Eve.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar choice, but a
Okay.
bit different too. So if you had a choice to win just one game between the a game against Toronto in MLS in MLS, so
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs, play-in, or a knockout game in Champions League against Tigres, which one would you choose?
Champions League. Always.
Really?
Yeah. That's always been, I think, a fun, historic competition for Montreal. I think the only thing is I would not want it to be at the Olympic Stadium. If it were at the Olympic, no, but then it would definitely have 60,000 people there if it were that. No, I'm still going to say Champions League. I am going to still say Champions League because in MLS, you are always on the road if you are that low seed in the playoffs. So it's kind of a pipe dream a little bit. But, obviously you do have chances to play at home in Champions League. And of course, Montreal went viral in Champions League for a reason. And unfortunately, that was before my time. But that would be my dream, would be to make it happen for myself. Yeah, maybe. Sorry, guys.
I was in that 2015 game, I think, in Olympic Stadium, where a guy Croker was his name that
Cameron
scored that
Porter.
goal. I was in Porter. I was at that game, and I knew nothing about the Impact back then. I didn't follow them closely, and I lost my mind. It was insane. So yeah, 1,000% champions. Yeah, that was a heck of an experience in the Olympic Stadium. Yeah,
nice. Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I would go with Champions League too. So
yeah,
perfect. And last but not least, for you, Eve, again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think it's your kind of jam.
Okay.
Okay, you finish at the bottom of the table at the end of the season. You lose all 8 remaining games, 0 points. Okay. Would you still keep Laurent Courtois?
No.
And one sec. Would you still keep Laurent Courtois and get Olivier Renard back as president for Gabriel Gervais? Or would you keep Gabriel Gervais and get a new coach? That's the 2 choices.
Well, I think I actually already answered this earlier. I think the president role is so much bigger that to find a new president would be obviously quite a challenge, and it's been a challenge, and Montreal has failed in their search for presidents in the past, or their hirings for presidents in the past.
But you have a president ready. You chose Olivier Renard. That's not a problem.
So hold on. So does this mean Gabriel Gervais leaves and
yes, Olivier Renard replaces Gabriel Gervais? Back as the president.
Okay.
Because
No,
the search for president. Yeah. So that's not.
No, still, I think with a proper, assuming that Gabriel Gervais has the plan to install a proper sporting director, right? or somebody with a scouting signing capacity, whatever he's going to call this role going forward. I don't know. I think the easier solution would be to fire Courtois and keep Renard as well. Or sorry, keep Gervais, my bad. As well, just a matter of there are, I think, players who would probably not be thrilled to come back next season even if Olivier Renard came back, but Laurent Courtois was still their coach. So it might just also make that easier.
Okay, Andy?
I would bring back Olivier Renard and Vasily Kermansidis back. And that means that Laurent Courtois would still be coach, no?
Yeah.
Just because the only reason why I go that direction is not because I don't like Gabriel Gervais, it's just that I know what Olivier Renard can do. Gabriel Gervais, I can still not say that I know what he wants to do. Besides, apparently in every other conference that he's had, he said we want to improve the analytics department and keep track of all the signings we're doing. But that plan hasn't come to fruition. We haven't seen the fruit of that approach, and if it involves Laurent Courtois or not. So that's why I'm a little more hesitant to pick Gabriel Gervais, because I don't know more to make a choice than as opposed to Olivier Renard. I like what he did, and yeah, that's my choice.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Honestly, I would keep Renard. I would keep Gervais and search for a new coach. That's my answer, because I feel that at one point, something has to happen, and changing the whole structure again from the beginning is not the right thing to do, in my opinion.
No.
So, we do have a couple of more comments, and then we can, I think, wrap it up. So Wellington saying, I'm not renewing my season tickets unless the management improve the teams. And Salam saying, as for me, I'll choose yesterday's loss, especially since it's in our stadium with 20,000 supporters. So,
Fair.
So it's fair. It's fair. So I hope you guys liked choices, the return of choices for just one episode. It's not going to be a regular thing, but whenever we can, whenever we have time, we'll play that game. So that's it for tonight. Thanks a lot, Eve and Andy, for being here with me tonight. Elias wasn't here because he's traveling. He's going to Italy. Good on him. So yeah, that's it for tonight. Thanks a lot, everyone, for listening. There's a lot of people that tuned in, and I really love that. Thanks a lot for being here. Don't forget, content is always going to be free as usual. If you want to help us improve the product, feel free to join our Patreon page and become our Patreon. It's going to help us improve, invest, and get even better. This is it for tonight. Thanks a lot, everyone, and see you next week for episode 193 of The Ball is Round.